It's almost!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here.
Hi, I'm Rupha Ramani and you're watching Firstpost. Now, hope is a strong emotion when it comes to sport, and that's what connects the stories we are bringing to you today. The Indian cricket team will hope that some of their plans for the T20 World Cup falls into place. That's just 7 months from now. What are the 5 key roles or the 5 key aspects they will have to freeze in the next 7 months? Hope will be also on the lips of some of the top women cricketers when the franchises huddle up across the auction tables at the Women's Premier League tomorrow. Who are going to be the most sought-after cricketers who will incite a bidding war? We'll tell you right here. Hope hangs by a thread for what is the best, worst football club in England. An interesting story right there to warm your hearts. And what happens when hopes of a country are dashed and paves way to anger and violence. Santos club getting relegated for the first time in more than 100 years led to some terrifying visuals. All of that and more coming your way this Friday. But first, time for Sports 360. Now on to Premier League. Everton struck 3 times in the final 11 minutes, leaving Newcastle stunned at the Goodison Park. The 3-0 win brings Everton out of the Premier League relegation zone despite a 10-point deduction. It has lifted Everton 1 point clear of the bottom 3 and they would be in the top half, but for the points penalty. France's World Cup winner Paul Pogba reportedly is facing the possibility of a lengthy ban after Italy's anti-doping tribunal called for a 4-year suspension for the Juventus midfielder. Pogba was provisionally suspended in September after he tested positive for testosterone. Despite the off-season, there's a lot brewing in the Formula One racing world. In the latest, motorsports governing body, the FIA, has announced that it has ended a short-lived investigation into a potential conflict of interest, believed to center on Toto Wolff, the Mercedes boss, and his wife Susie Wolff, the managing director of the Formula One Academy. The probe was launched after allegations of information of confidential nature being passed on to the Formula One team principal from a member of the Formula One management personnel. In tennis, Rafael Nadal says he could not confirm whether 2024 will be his final year before retirement. Nadal said it makes no sense to set a deadline for the end of his career. After nearly a year-long injury absence, the 22-time Grand Slam champion will make his return at the Australian Open warm-up event in Brisbane next month. And in cricket, Australia's cricket board has issued an apology on Wednesday. This after a racist term was flashed on the scoreboard during day 1 of Pakistan's 4-day warm-up match versus the Prime Minister's 11 at the Manuka Oval. The scoreboard displayed a derogatory term used for people from South Asian origin. Now, the Indian cricket team is gearing up for their series against South Africa starting this weekend. It's a massive series where both teams will face off in all 3 formats. But all scrutiny is upon the T20 battles as the coming year is about the T20 World Cup. Is India ready for that challenge after a heartbreaking end to their stunning ODI World Cup campaign just last month? It kind of feels like the entire team and support staff, management and selection committee put their efforts all into the ODI World Cup and are suddenly now confronted with another challenge, which is completely different in nature, a T20 World Cup. One cannot tackle and strategize for an ODI much like they do a T20 match. Both require different kind of personnel and a different kind of thought process. So let's look at the 5 key aspects that the Indian team must think of and nail while keeping in mind the big picture, which is the T20 World Cup. Number 1, the captain. Rohit Sharma may have been gutted at the loss in the final to Australia, but he did a lot of things right last year. The team looked happy and together during the campaign, and that's why a captain who knows his way about a tournament such as a World Cup is crucial. India will be hoping Rohit gets back to the helm along with Rahul Dravid for what looks like one last burst at World Cup glory together. Rohit has been a selfless leader, and his brand of cricket will be essential for leading India this year and the coming one as well. Number 2, the opening combination. A T20 opening combination is unlike that of any one-day international. But Rohit Sharma displayed an attacking quality without caring for the landmark scores or personal milestones. And that's how T20 cricket is meant to be played. The battle is often won with the bat, and hence much of the mindset has to be attacking. We also saw him play that role of the anchor when things didn't go to plan, which is why a young, fiery opener like a Yashasvi Jaiswal could be an option India will be looking to seal. Who will be that second opener? There are others too who have shown their mettle for their Indian Premier League sides, like Ruturaj Gaikwad for the Chennai Super Kings. Shubman Gill, of course, he did resoundingly well for the Gujarat Titans, and he's captain as well for the coming season. The options are plenty, so this series we may see a few experiments to figure out who the opening combination will be. Number 3. Who is that number 3? Now, there has been so much talk of both Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma contemplating their futures in the shorter format of the game. While there is some talk of Rohit Sharma coming back to helm the affairs, there is little knowledge of what Virat Kohli truly wants. He hasn't played a T20 international since that 2022 World Cup campaign, and the Indian Premier League is the only avenue that he's really been active in that format in. The number 3 in T20 cricket needs to be a dynamic one, much like the kind of attitude that Rohit displayed. But is India ready to look beyond a Virat Kohli for that slot? There have always been questions raised on Kohli's batting style in a T20 setup. But is India going to make such a bold move so soon with the World Cup just months away? And even if they do, who are the options? Could it be someone like Ishan Kishan? He is that explosive batter. We've seen him bat up the order for the Mumbai Indians franchise to keep that momentum going despite the fall of a wicket, or any of the other options that we looked at for the opener slot to shuttle down one drop, to give impetus and a T20-like presence. It could be any of these. On to number 4, the question of the finisher. Now, Rinku Singh has been in astounding form, carrying forward all of his heroics for the Kolkata Knight Riders franchise in the IPL season. Now, will he be in the mix for the T20 World Cup as that number 5 or number 6 batter? Who else is jostling for that position? Someone like Jitesh Sharma as well, and Tilak Varma. Now, both of them have had fabulous stints with their IPL teams. Jitesh did so with the Rajasthan Royals, giving some scintillating knocks down the order. And then, of course, Tilak Varma for the Mumbai Indians, who also played a very pivotal role for Mumbai Indians' campaign in the season when they came through to the playoffs. Now, these will be a key series for these youngsters if given the chance. On to the next query, which is the number 5, or which is the number 5 concern, which is the extra 6th bowler or that all-rounder option. Now, that question never would have plagued India as much had the World Cup final seen a different result. There are plenty of options for that extra spinner who could provide another dimension. A Washington Sundar who brings that all-rounder tag along with him. Or simply a classic second spinner like Ravi Bishnoi, who topped the charts in the T20 department so far. He's really been in good form, and he also did well for his IPL franchise, the Lucknow. Now, in the pace unit, the options for that extra seamer looks to be between someone like an Arshdeep, who had, of course, a very good stint with the Punjab team, and Mukesh Kumar, who's really blossomed under the guidance of MS Dhoni in the Chennai Super Kings franchise. But both are one-dimensional. Meanwhile, Hardik Pandya is being closely monitored to get his recovery back on track for the World Cup. Now, it looks like the Indian Premier League, of course, will be the final stage for the selectors to get some of their answers before finalizing which way they will surely be heading come World Cup. But for some of these youngsters, the series against South Africa will be critical to stake their claim for that golden ticket to the World Cup. Now, the second Women's Premier League auctions is around the corner, and the bidding war will begin on Saturday at 3 p.m. in the afternoon in India's financial capital, Mumbai. 5 franchises are gearing up for the auction: Mumbai Indians, Delhi Capitals, UP Warriors, Gujarat Giants, and Royal Challengers Bangalore. Now, the WPL is hailed as a game changer for women's cricket. After a successful debut this year, the hype for the tournament's second edition is real. It is expected to start in February or March in 2024. As many as 165 players will go under the hammer. Out of those, 104 are Indian cricketers and 61 are overseas players, out of which 15 come from our associate nations. Now, the 5 teams have a total of 30 slots available, out of which 9 are reserved for overseas players. Gujarat Giants are all set to flex their financial muscle as they will enter the auction holding the highest salary cap. That's around 6 crore rupees, or roughly over 700,000 US dollars. The defending champions Mumbai Indians will have the least amount, around 2.1 crores or little over 250,000 US dollars. This is, of course, on the basis of the number of players released and their worth for each of these franchises. Now, let's look at the most promising players who would be in demand come Saturday. These are the 5 players I think we will have to watch out for. Number 1, we have Shabneen Ismail. Now, this former South African pacer was released by UP Warriors, and the move came as a bit of a shock. The inaugural IPL auction saw some intense bidding. She ended up being bought for a whopping 1 crore rupees, or nearly $120,000 in the last edition. Ismail only played 3 matches and claimed 3 wickets. Given the fact that she is South Africa's highest women's wicket taker, and after her deadly performance in the Women's Big Bash League and the Women's 100 tournament, she will surely be in high demand. And teams will look to seize the opportunity to secure her. Next up for me is one of my favourites, Sri Lankan captain Chamari Atapattu. This power-packed player is fiery. Surprisingly, she found no team bidding for her last season, but with the way she's performed and has led her side this year, she could be a prime target. Chamari won the Player of the Series award also in the recently concluded WBBL in Australia and posted more than 500 runs, which is the second highest in the season. So the stakes are indeed high and the excitement is through the roof for this player. At number 3 is India's Devika Vaidya. Now, this all-rounder may have had an underwhelming numbers in the 2023 edition of the Women's Premier League, but she will look to turn the tables this time around. The UP Warriors punched a hole in their own pockets last season to buy her. She was sold for about 1.4 crore rupees, or that's nearly $170,000, but was released this time. Devika was also a part of India's Asian Games gold medal winning squad, and that really makes her a very, very good candidate. Now, the next person on my list is Kim Garth from Australia. Now, she played for the Gujarat Giants in the first edition of the Women's Premier League and claimed 11 wickets in total. This all-rounder became the second player to register a 5-wicket haul. This was against UP Warriors, where she claimed a fifer for 36 runs. She's also the only player, along with West Indies all-rounder Deandra Dottin, to have a base price of 50 lakh rupees. That's the highest reserve price. Now, the last one for me is Annabelle Sutherland, another Aussie all-rounder. She played in 4 matches in the last edition, but later went places in the Women's Big Bash League, where she picked up 23 wickets and smashed close to 300 runs, the most for Melbourne Stars. Her maiden Test century came during the Ashes during Australia's win in Nottingham. The inaugural edition of the Women's Premier League saw Mumbai Indians, that was led by Harmanpreet Kaur, brush aside Delhi Capitals, captained by Meg Lanning in the final. It was Gujarat Titans who finished at the bottom of the table. They will look to enter the competition with a fresh perspective. The franchise released a total of 11 players from their team in a bid to overhaul its squad. They have a total of 10 available slots to fill in, including an overseas player. Meanwhile, Delhi Capitals have retained most of their members, which means they are happy with their core unit. They have retained some of their best players like Meg Lanning, Jemima Rodriguez and Shafali Verma. Some other notable performers will also be a few who let their skills do the talking in the India-England series. Someone like England's Danny Wyatt. No takers in the first season, but now with that fiery 47-ball 75, will be hedging for recency bias to get herself picked. Now, football is a way of life, at least in certain parts of the world. It's almost like this country lives, breathes and dreams about the game. We're talking of Brazil. Here, the fine line between football fervour and fiery unrest is often blurred. It's this raw, intense emotion that ignites the blood and soul of football fans. Now, it happened last month. We told you about it. A World Cup qualifier match turned horrific, where Brazil took on Argentina at the Maracanã. Just before the match was about to kick off, Massive clashes broke out between locals and Argentinian fans, and it turned violent. Cops resorted to using batons to charge the crowd. The standoff resulted in Messi walking out. Goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez rushed in to be a part of that brawl. We all know of the rivalry between football's two most passionate countries, but it is within the blink of an eye that a friendly banter often escalates into a hostile conflict. This is what I call the dark side of the beautiful game. The latest chapter in this, the riots that broke out in the Brazilian city of Santos recently. Take a look. Now, what you saw was a result of a simple, friendly football match. Why did it get to this? Now, Santos, a local Brazilian football club, took on Fortaleza. To give you some context, Santos is the former club that Pelé, yes, the late legendary footballer Pelé, represented. Santos lost the match 2-1 to Fortaleza last night and were relegated post the home game loss. Now, you know what relegation entails. It's when a club or a team finishing at the bottom of the league are demoted to a lower group or tier for the subsequent season. This can be due to poor performance or if the club breaches any regulations. Santos, or shall we say Pelé's club, was relegated due to their terrible campaign. The club in their last 5 matches couldn't even win a single game and plunged to 17th in the standings. It was the first time in over 100 years that a club like Santos were reduced to such a horrible season. They were demoted to the second-tier level of Brazil's domestic leagues with that loss. But what followed after the match was fury and wrath from passionate fans. Some couldn't hold back their tears, but many went on a rampage, venting their anger and ire. Buildings were damaged, vehicles were set ablaze. Police had to intervene. They fired tear gas at Santos fans to try and contain the situation.
I've never seen anything like it. It was terrible, it was scary.
With this fire outside our house, it made it even worse. We were afraid of this fire spreading to our house.
Now, that's what a local resident had to say. I have never seen something like this, something that even Santos supporters would agree. The great Pelé brought glory to the club. He made it one of the most famous and renowned clubs worldwide. The 1950s was when it saw some of its golden days, and the club is home to some players who enjoy a huge fan base, like Neymar, Robinho, Rodrigo. The pain of the loss is because of the legacy that these footballers and the club have built over the years. Witnessing the downfall of such a club, that's been a source of pride for the locals. But having said that, there is no room for violence in sport. In fact, for a club that has produced one of the legends of the sport, it's sad to see that its current athletes are now running for cover amidst an angry mob. If shying away from a horrible season was not enough. And now bringing you a story that is off the track. Now, no matter the sport, if you are in it, you want to win it. That's the fire of being a player. Everyone wants to be the best. No one wants to play to lose. But what happens when you are the best? Worst, in fact, what happens when that's practically your nickname? I'm talking about the century-old British football club in Swansea, CWM Albion. They are quite literally the worst team in Britain. They lost every game last season. They had a goal difference of 191. I'm not kidding. Their star player is 73 years old. Their goalkeeper hasn't kept a clean sheet in more than a decade. Well, it's really been pretty grim. But now their fortunes may be turning. It seems a good old underdog story is unfolding. We'll tell you how.
This man is Harry Redknapp. He's often called a Premier League legend. He helped shape dozens of careers in football. The long list includes Gareth Bale, Rio Ferdinand and Frank Lampard. He managed numerous English football clubs, including West Ham, Tottenham Hotspur, Southampton, QPR and Portsmouth. If you're wondering why we're giving you a download on this man, don't worry, we aren't randomly stalking him. We do know his age though. Redknapp is 76 years old, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out that ideally he should be in retirement. But now Redknapp is back in the dugout. Why, you ask? to change the fortunes of UK's best worst team. We aren't calling the team this, that's the national nickname of a football club in Swansea, a century-old club called Come Albion. They are quite literally the worst team in Britain. They lost every game last year, all 22 of them, with a staggering goal difference of 191. Their star player, John Rees, is 73 years old. Their goalkeeper, Jamie McDonald, hasn't kept a clean sheet in over a decade playing for a club. As you can tell, it isn't looking too good for Come Albion. But Redknapp wants to change just that. He will support the club throughout the season and deliver face-to-face training. He admits, at first, he didn't know what to expect because of the team's poor track record. But after meeting the players, he can't doubt their determination. For some critics, Redknapp's entry is a PR stunt to make the club look good, to make it seem like they want to change things around. But for others, the change is already here. Since Redknapp began training the team, Britain's worst football team has finally won a game. It was a 4-3 win against Tennant Courts. This was the team's first win in 3 years. So is this dramatic intervention actually working? Come Albion certainly hopes so. But in reality, only time will tell. After all, Redknapp is in it for the long haul and the numbers will speak for themselves. But remember, while the team may be terrible on the field, clubs like these are the lifeblood of the sport. The only thing better is when they also give life to an underdog tale.
Well, that's all the time we have here on Firstpost. But before we leave, here's our parting shot or the last serve. Now, today, we're going to bring you visuals of an Italian kiteboarder, a 19-year-old Andrea Principi. Yes, she's only 19 and she was seen performing spectacular stunts in front of 6,000 people. Take a look. Incredible stunts there, but that does it here on Firstpost. Thanks so much for joining us here today and have a great weekend. We'll see you again on Monday at 7 p.m. Till then, bye-bye.